Hi, my name's Chelsea. I'm just doing my video response, responding to watching the video Time for School, Part 1, and this is Time for School number 3. Some of my views and insights and reactions to these children and watching them go through these times. It's completely different than what the United States faces, where many students it's like pulling their leg to get them to school, and a lot of us take it for granted, especially seeing children in these situations that's their biggest hope and dream, and that's what it really is to them. It's a dream. It's not something that they feel like is realistic and is able to really happen. They have to care for their families in some cases. They have to do the work around the house, and for girls, that's a big part of their role in their family is that work. And for guys, or for the boys, in these situations, they get to play a lot, and it's not really their responsibility to do the work around the house. It's the girls. And so the guys kind of almost look down on those girls that do go to school, and they don't think it's a priority for them. And even for some parents, they need their children to work around the house so much that they don't necessarily support education 100%. They see in some cases how it's valued and the influence that it can have, but they're not willing to necessarily always make those sacrifices for their children to years down the road to have a better future than they could without this education. And in some cases, it's dangerous for the girls to go to school. It's a scary situation. Like the one girl from Afghanistan. The men don't always allow them to go, and so in this case, she was allowed to go. But it's still dangerous and it's still scary, the situations that she gets in. It's a hard dynamic in the home, because if the children are allowed to go to school, then when they get home, they're still required to do their chores, so they're not able to keep up on their studies, and that makes them struggle in school. When your family isn't supportive of getting an education, it makes it even harder to be successful in getting that education. Oh, and even in Brazil, I thought it was really interesting that they're starting to pay the families to keep their children in school, because they realize that families struggle, that they need the children's help, and so they're doing whatever they can to get those children to stay there. At least in Brazil, that's the case. And in Brazil, it's also dangerous. The gangs that are involved, for these kids, it's a big turning point in their lives for them to be going to school. If they drop out, they often get involved in, I would say, inappropriate things that aren't going to better them or make them more successful in their lives. They talk about either their daughters being whores or their sons being drug dealers, and that is a more serious thing in these developing countries. we hear about it in the United States, but it's a completely different form of it. And then it was interesting to see a couple different ways that they spend their times after school. I didn't even realize that some places had computers, some of the developing places, but there was one girl, we haven't watched that video yet, with her in it, but she talks about how she enjoyed playing on the computer. But others, they don't even have that opportunity, and they talk about drawing and playing kind of made up games and playing with their siblings. And then in India, with Niraj, I think was how you said it, there's so many kids going to school, but they're not actually learning what is necessary to read and write and do mathematics. And that was interesting. So it's like, what are they spending their time on? That's tough when you're sending your children to this place, but they're not coming back knowing these important things. And they also talked about night school, how they're working all day and then they're trying to find a time to make for this, and that's exhausting. And then even then, she wasn't able to keep up with the studies, and she dropped out because she's embarrassed, and her family is actually very excited about that. They don't see the importance in the education, and they say, oh, she'll just marry a educated boy, and that's all that matters. And then finally with Ken in Japan, it was interesting. You could definitely tell the difference in the importance that school plays in each country. And it was much more important in Japan, and that's just kind of something that I already knew, that they're already very smart. They have a lot going for them, and I thought it was interesting how they were the ones cleaning their school. It gives them a sense of, I guess, more respect for their school and understanding for the work that they have to go through in order to have that. And I think many people should take on that. I think in the United States we might even, if the kids here had to do that, they would respect their schools more. And we often have pretty nice, clean schools in the United States, but they might even be better than what they are if the kids were required, and it helps on money as well. I found it really entertaining to watch this video. It wasn't like homework, but it was pleasurable to learn about these other places, and it was an eye-opener for how I view school, and just a sense of gratitude for what we do have. That's what I thought of this video, and the important parts that were noticed by me.